Okay, let's talk real quickly about supplies. You're gonna need a pencil, and you will not do everything in pencil. We'll talk about that in a second. You're gonna need a Sharpie ultrafine marker, which we have in class. And you may want to pick up either, if you have one, to use a Sharpie pen, or my very favorite is the Ficron markers that are pretty small. You usually stay with like the 01, which is 0.25 millimeters, up to a 0.5 millimeter size, are really good for doing Zentangles. So let's talk about the parts of the Zentangle real quickly. The only time I really use a pencil, let's pretend this is one of your squares on your worksheet. The only time I use a pencil is when I'm needing to lay down a line that I would need to go over the top of. So as far as your worksheet is concerned, what you're doing there is you're just adding patterns, Zentangle patterns, and you can find those in the YouTube playlist, which we talk about at the end of this video, or you can go out and find them on your own. We'll come back to that in a minute. Each one of your squares in your sketchbook is going to get filled with these patterns. But there's one other element to a Zentangle that I wanted to talk to you about. So when you're doing a true Zentangle, you have pattern in the background, but you also have what's called strings. And strings basically cut across an area. They can loop-de-loop, okay? And these strings can get a pattern of Zentangle put over the top of them as well. So for example, let's just say, because this one's pretty simple, that I want to add this pattern right here over the top of my string. So that's where I would lay down a pencil line, and then over the top of it, I'm going to go ahead and sketch it out. Okay, you always start with strings before Zentangle patterns. Then I'm going to take away that string so that I can continue on adding the other parts to it. And this kind of looks like it's laced. So what's going to happen is it's just going to connect through. Okay, so there. Okay, so I have a worksheet that you're going to pick up, and when you first get the worksheet, it's going to not be split like this for your sketchbook. It's actually going to look like this. We're not going to cut this apart until down the road for a reason. I'm actually going to make copies of this, and you're going to share your patterns with the other people in your class so that they have loads and loads to pick from. So because of that, and because we want to know who made what, I want you to start by writing your name and your hour on this worksheet, and then don't lose it. We'll cut it and add it into your sketchbook shortly, and actually we'll just glue one to the other and they'll all just fold out, and you'll have tons and tons of patterns to choose from. When it comes to choosing patterns, here's how this works. So this whole line, you're going to, any pattern that you find in the YouTube playlist, which we'll talk about in the next section, where to find that, you're basically going to go through all these videos and you're going to pick out ones that you think look cool. And if it has a square in it, then you're going to add it to this line. If it has triangle pattern in it, you're going to add it to this line. Circle pattern, this line. Curved lines here. You'll notice this is mimicking a lot of the words that you saw in your sketchbook from the beginning when we went through elements and principles. You've got zigzag lines, organic shapes, straight lines, and your choice. These can be anything in this section. You will notice that there is not a spot on here for strings or borders. So what I'm going to have you do is on the back of your paper, practice strings. I want a total of 10 strings. And then we'll make copies of these as far as what your favorites are and slice everything apart and put them in your sketchbook, okay? So try to keep your strings, you know, kind of don't cross the midline because we're gonna cut this piece of paper in half. So kind of do half of your strings, maybe do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and have them run just vertical like this. You can just make a whatever line and practice some strings that go over the top of this. Okay, makes sense? Next section will tell you where to find the strings and the patterns that you're going to use to fill in this part of the worksheet. Talk for just a second about where you need to go to find all of these resources in Schoology and links for doing this first phase of this color wheel. So if you'll head in Schoology to our class and then go to this pink Unit 4 Zentangle color wheel and click on it. There are 2 different playlists in here besides this video that you're watching, which I have yet to add. So you've got YouTube Zentangle playlist of ideas and Pinterest color wheel board. So let's start with the playlist. So we have 39 videos in this playlist for you, ranging from how to fill in the squares on your Zentangle worksheet in your sketchbook that deal with like the specifics. So let's see, where is one here? How to do square patterns, how to do triangle patterns. There's videos talking about strings. One's about specific geometric shapes, which would work well with our worksheet. Only using circles, that's one line on your worksheet. So you're welcome to use any of these. I've watched all of these videos. I know that they're fairly easy and good ones to start with. There's quite a few in here. Or this gives you a good idea of what we're looking for if you want to go out and start finding your own on YouTube. There are tons of videos out there on this. The sky is kind of the limit. So I would just encourage you, if you pick a tricky pattern, you might want to start your own playlist of YouTube videos so that it's one thing to practice it, but if you know you want to use that one in your actual color wheel, you may need to go back to that video and pull it up so that you can use it to remake that pattern. Sometimes just doing it once isn't enough for us to know how to go it alone and do it all by ourselves. So I would encourage you, as you start accumulating patterns that you like, to maybe start dropping those into your own playlist onto YouTube. And if you need help with that, just let me know. The other link that you have is to this Pinterest board, which has a couple of ideas. Actually, that is not the right one. Let's go back here to your, it should take you to this one. And you'll probably have to open it outside of the browser. We may have to double check this one. It may not work for you guys like what we're wanting it to work. If need be, I will just throw all of these pictures into a folder. But this is what we're going for. You can kind of see, these are some examples of what our color wheels will look like when we're done. Okay, so these different circle type designs, and we'll get into the specifics of how to create that, but you can see that they're filled with Zentangle patterns. These are pretty much what you would call a mandala. And that's what our color wheels are going to represent when we're finished. We'll add color on down the road, but we want you to start planning for all of these patterns. Okay.